Okay, so I started out with some technical difficulties. Hopefully I'm ready now. Kind of looks that way. This will be in two parts. So we'll do the front page on part one and the back page on part two because it is kind of long. Taking a look at the first one, it says write the equation of the graph that's given. What's the line's x-intercept? So we aren't looking for the y-intercept, we're looking for the x-intercept. So if I take a look here, I have a y-intercept at 1, 2, 3, 4. So my b is equal to 4. My slope, in order to write my equation, those are the two things I need. I need slope and y-intercept. To get from here, this point here, up to this one, I go up. Let's change this color. I go up 4 over 3. So my slope is 4/3, or 4 over 3. And so my x-intercept, real easy to see, it's just this one right here. So my x-intercept equals -3. My equation, once I have my slope and y-intercept, I can write that. So y equals 4/3 x plus 4. And that would be my equation. Okay, so taking a look at the next one, I definitely have a y-intercept. I have my b, it's pretty easy to see, and I know we can figure out my m. My y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, it's 4 as well, because it's up there. My slope is negative because it is going downhill, so we go down 1 and over 3, so 1/3. So if I write my equation from here, I have y equals 4x, no. My 4 is my y-intercept. So 1/3 x plus 4. If I want to figure out my x-intercept, I could keep counting and keep doing, going this way and figure out where that's going to be, etc. Or I could just plug in 0 for y and solve for x. So I would subtract 4. I could use nsolve too. So -4 equals 1/3 x, and so I'd multiply by 3, so -12 equals my x-intercept. Okay. Moving on. Convert the following to slope-intercept form. Identify the slope, the y-intercept, and the x-intercept. So we're looking also for slope, y-intercept, and x-intercept. I know I kind of went over that, but it'll work. So if I want to go into slope-intercept form, that means I'm solving for y. So I've got some manipulations to do. I subtract 3x, so I have -2y. Don't forget that negative. We lose our signs. That's where we cause some problems. We just list those out. Divide by -2 on both sides. So y is going to equal 3/2 x and plus 4, because those are both negative. Those are both negative. My slope is going to be 3/2. My y-intercept is 4. My x-intercept, I have to plug in 0 for y. So I'd have 0 equals 3/2 x plus 4. So if I subtract 4, I have -4 equals 3/2 x. And then if I invert, so use the reciprocal and solve, I'd have -8/3 to get my x-intercept. Okay, because I'd have to multiply both sides by 2 over 3. So times 2 over 3, whoopsie. So times 2 over 3 here, and we end up with 8 over 3, and one negative and one positive. Okay, so taking a look at B, same type of thing. I need to solve for y. So if I subtract 2x, I have 10y equals -2x plus 10. Divide both sides by 10, and y is going to equal -1/5 x plus 1. We need to make sure we simplify. If not, you will lose credit for that. We've got to simplify. So my slope is -1/5. Here's my slope. My y-intercept is 1. To figure out my x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So 0 equals -1/5 x. I'm going to erase that. Plus 1, so if I subtract 1, I have -1 equals -1/5 x. To get rid of that, I'm going to multiply by 5 on both sides, -5. So I should end up with a +5 equals x, or use nsolve. Okay, use that calculator. That's what it's there for. Number 4, same type of thing. We're trying to solve for y. So if I subtract 3x from both sides, I have, don't forget the negative, negative y equals negative 3x minus 3. I don't want to know what negative y is. I need to make this a positive. So I could divide everything by -1, or realize that if I change this sign to a positive, I am changing every sign, this one in this case, to a positive. Okay, because they were all negative, so they all become positive. My slope is +3, and my y-intercept is a +3 as well. If I wanted to figure out what my x-intercept is, I got to plug in 0 for y, so I'd have 0 equals 3x plus 3. Subtract this 3, and -3 equals 3x. Divide by 3, and again, just use insolve. -1 equals my x-intercept. Hey, and finally this last one, I've got to get y by itself again. So I'm going to add x to both sides. So 3x is going, no. 3y is going to equal x plus 15. Divide by 3, so y is going to equal 1/3 x plus 5, because it goes divide by 3 into everything. If I want to figure out my x-intercept, plug in 0 for y, so 0 equals 1/3 x plus 5. Subtract 5 from both sides, so -5 equals 1/3 x. Get rid of that pesky fraction by multiplying by 3/1, reciprocal, so -15 equals x. Or use insolve. That's another way to take care of that. All right, so now we are ready to write an equation of a line that passes through these 2 points. And remember, I need both m and b. So in order to find m, that means I need to find my slope. So if I'm going to find my slope, I've got to use my slope formula. So if I remember, or if I look at the wall, m equals y2 minus y1. So the difference in the vertical, x2 minus x1, the difference in the horizontal, rise over run. So if I do that, I would have 12 minus 6 all over 1 minus -1. This is where we get in trouble because we lose those signs. 12 minus 6 is 6. This right here, the minus the negative just becomes plus. And so 1 plus 1 is 2. That means my slope is equal to 3. If I'm ready to write my equation, I need to use my point slope form. So I look at the wall and I see it's y minus y1 equals m, and then x minus x1. y1 and x1 are your points. It doesn't matter which point you choose. I'm going to choose the second one. So I've got y minus 12 equals my slope 3 and x minus 1. So distribute first. Y minus 12 equals 3x minus 3. And then I can add 12 to both sides. So we end up with y equals 3x plus 9. So my slope is 3, my y-intercept is 9. All right, so for number 6 over here, I've got to find the slope as well. So I'm going to take 2 minus 2 over, and if I start with that one, that'll be 4 plus 6, because it would be minus that -6, and minus a negative becomes plus. So I've got 0 over 10. And if I put that in my calculator, if I'm not really sure which one it is, put it in my calculator. 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. So my slope is 0. I can either plug it in, or I've looked at my notes enough to know that if my slope is 0, I know it's this type of a line, horizontal. That means he's not hard to find, okay? It is horizontal. The slope is 0, which means that we do have a y, and it's going to equal what our y-intercept is. Well, our y-intercept is here and here. It's going to be a 2. Again, we could plug it in, and if I plug it in, it's going to be y minus 2 equals 0, x minus 4. Well, 0 times anything is just 0. And so y minus 2 equals 0. So if I add 2 to both sides, it's just going to be y equals 2. Same exact thing. So we can either skip all those steps and just know that, or we can plug it in just like we have to make sure. All right, so let's finish it up here. So this 7, same type of thing. We've got to find our slope. So y2 minus y1, 5 minus 3, over, that's the y2 and y1, over the x2 and x1. So we're going to use those. So 15 minus 9. So if I do that, I end up with 2/6. Again, if I leave it like that, not cool. It would not be for full credit. So we need to simplify it down to 1/3. Once we do that, we are ready to choose a point. It doesn't matter which point we choose. I guess I'll choose the first one. So I'm going to do y minus 3, because it's y minus y1, equals 1/3, because it's slope, and x minus 9. So I need to distribute. When I distribute a third, basically I'm dividing by 3. Well, a third of x is just a third x. But 9 divided by 3 is going to be 3, and it's a negative and a positive, so negative 3. Y minus 3 on this side. So if I add 3 to both sides, those 3's are going to disappear, and we're going to end up with y equals 1/3 x. That means my that means my y-intercept is the origin, because that disappeared. All right, and finally the last one. I'm going to erase this so that I have room. I need to subtract. I have to find my slope. 9 minus negative 3, or 9 plus 3, all over 10 minus 10. This will end up being 12, because 9 plus 3 is 12, over 0. Again, if I'm not sure which one it is, I'm going to plug it into my calculator, and it's going to tell me undef, which means it's undefined. That's only the slope. That's not the equation. The equation now tells me, well, first of all, if it's undefined, it tells me it is a vertical line, because he's hard to find. He decided to jump off that cliff to impress everybody. And so that means there's still an equation, but there's not a y-intercept. So instead of having a y equals something, we have x equals whatever our x value is, which is right here, and that's going to be equal to 10. So that would be our equation. We can't put undefined for the equation. That just doesn't make sense, because there is an equation. All right, so this is part 1. Check out part 2 for the backside.